Welcome to another video. My name is Kat. I'm also known under my brand name Catikind. I am a small business owner, artist, illustrator. I haven't made a video in a while, which mostly was because I went back to my full-time job a couple months ago. But yeah, as the new year is starting and I'm applying for new conventions and thinking what direction I want to take my small business in, I decided to make another video. I was actually inspired by my friend Tuna, who did like a year in review of last year, and at the end of the video she left it for the fun numbers, and I'm a huge fan of numbers. I like looking back at my books. I actually like doing my own books. I wanted to compile a list of 20 fun numbers about things I've learned, things I've done, things I want to do differently, some things that are just fun facts, and kind of talk about how 2024 was for me, what I'm planning for the next year, not really in a New Year's resolution kind of way, but more in a, I'm very future oriented, so it's always good to take a breath and be like, this is where I was, this is how far I've gotten. It's always good to take a moment and remember, because there's always more to do, but then remembering, hey, I actually did a lot and it's great. So without further ado, actually I have a lot of stuff to do. I have a market this Saturday, so I made all these nice displays that are mostly cardboard and little stickers from the dollar store to display my pins and postcards. And I'm gonna be assembling these and adding price tags, just adding finishing touches and talking while I do it. So it's kind of we're hanging out, you watch me craft, I talk about stuff. You can fast forward the parts you don't like, I don't know. Number one on the agenda is the number one, my bestseller / favorite item of 2024. This guy, my Cerberus enamel pin. It's sold more than twice the amount that the next best one did. So over the whole year I sold over 100 pieces of them. This is conventions, Etsy, and I'm actually selling pins at a retail location now, so that's included as well. Since I've always wanted to make plushies, I made this guy. So this is actually my favorite thing. So I work with this company and they make plushies, and I sent them my design, the original design based on the pin. Then they came up with a bunch of prototypes, and actually just one prototype, but then it went through so many iterations, and now this guy's here. So this is the sample, this is the approved sample. Look at him, he's so soft. He's minky fabric, black and white with a bunch of embroidery, and he's so fucking cute. They made 100 more, and they are currently on the big boat on their way to Canada to me. They will arrive in February or beginning of March. So pre-orders for this guy are now open. Link will be in the description. It's gonna be awesome. This is such a high quality plush. This is my favorite thing I've ever done. Look at him. He has tiny little beans. He's super sturdy, does not fall over. He's suitable for kids. He can take a beating. Since it's a pre-order and you won't receive it right away, I'll be adding a little gift. If you're local, if you know me in person, you can choose pickup option and save on shipping. Okay. This was number one. Starting off with a bang, this was my favorite. Okay, I actually gotta get to crafting. So I used to display all my postcards and pins, custom-made little shelves, but there's these modular grids that you can get pretty much anywhere online, and they are legit the best thing because you can assemble, disassemble, you can travel with the setup. And these ones I just attached little rails from the hardware store and some foam so they can hold postcards, and some decorative paper that's just double-sided tape. Okay, further in the agenda, more small business facts. Number two. Two is the amount of times I did a soft rebrand. I had a lot of time to think about what I want my brand to say or to stand for, so Catikind. If you're curious where this name came from, so Kata is what my friends used to call me in university, and Kind means child in German. So, because of my jovial, childlike nature, my friend Izzy started calling me Katakind, like affectionately, and it was really cute. Then, when I was thinking about what I want to call my brand, and my online name before used to be Nori Dragon, which was my first ever dragon character. But it wasn't really like who I was. It's kind of like this weird teenage name. So my full name is Katarina. Most people call me Kat. Some people call me Kata. I will respond to either. I will respond to Katarinosaurus, which is what my brother calls me sometimes. Anyway, I should stop losing track. I wanted my brand name to include me or my name. So it became Katakind. At the beginning of the year, I was drawing a lot of watercolor heads, and I wanted my logo to include my face. Start off with this one, painting of myself and my cat, because I thought it was cute if people saw it and they would like recognize me. I changed my tagline to be cute critters and watercolor wonders. When people would see me at conventions, the first thing they would point out was that I did watercolor. And it was good for a while, but then I kept thinking, okay, like I had a lot of time to think, where do I want to go? Like I want to have a thing that is recognizable as me, and especially when working on the Cerberus plush, I kept thinking, okay, like what is the thing that resonates with me and resonates with people? And I think it's the mix of like cute and spooky. I made this new logo based on a very old illustration of a skeleton cat. It might actually be a better fit in the long term. And I also like the dark purple spooky color scheme a lot more than like the pink and blue. But still work in progress. Okie dokie. Next item is number 3, sketchbooks finished. A bunch of them were like half full when the year started. I don't know, just finishing a sketchbook and putting it away is something like an achievement in itself. So I finished this one. I like to get the XL mixed media papers because they're good for watercolors or markers or pencil sketches. Let's see. Yeah, it started out with, I like to do series, so this was a series which was like illustrations of ladies and their familiars. Then I went through my Critical Role phase, so this must have been around, 2020. So like a lot of Critical Role, some studies, more concepts. So this was a commission that I did of somebody's Griffin logo. All of these are concepts for rugs that I blocked out with markers. Yeah, just lots of concepts. Existential APA that I still want to make at some point. Some sketches for a toothless rug commission that I ended up making. That was so awesome to work on. More sketches for my the dragon, most recent one, my cat jewelry. The next sketchbook is this big one, Critical Role stuff. I tried to do a Inktober, so like make a marker drawing each day of October. Lots of concepts for rugs as well. The way I treat these sketchbooks is concepts and stuff, they stay inside, but if I make like finished illustrations, I rip them out. Painting when I was traveling earlier last year, and birds with hats. All of these were made in this sketchbook. And the last one, this one I did a whole tour of, not of the whole thing, but of the 100-day 100 heads challenge. I feel like I really improved during this sketchbook. I used watercolor pencils a lot, and then I started my latest series, The Art of Disease, that is watercolor and marker illustrations based on people's stories with disease or mental health or conditions that I will hopefully be able to combine into a zine sometime this year. What now are we at? 4 movies or TV shows I worked on all of last year. My regular daytime job is to be a creature technical director. So I take models of creatures or humans, and I make them move by adding joints and articulation points and then handing them off to an animator to make them go. I get to work on really cool movies, really cool IPs. At the beginning of the year, I was on a project called Lilo and Stitch. It had really cool creature work, and the trailer's already out, you can take a look. I also had a very brief working stint for the Mighty Nine. I did a bunch of rigs for Vox Machina back in the day. So they needed somebody to help out, they reached out. I did some work for them, it was great. Unfortunately, just a very short thing. Number 5. 5 is the amount of countries I visited. I took a bunch of time off and I had a bunch of savings, so I managed to visit my friends in Australia, and I had layovers in Fiji and Taiwan on the way there and back. So I got to see a bunch of stuff I've never seen before and immerse myself in those cultures, and took a lot of inspiration for my art from those travels. I also went to Europe, which I try to do once a year because my family lives there. So I went to Germany and then England as well. Number 6, the amount of months I took off of my regular job last year. I was feeling pretty burnt out by the end of 2023, and I had planned to take some time off since I started doing conventions, probably like 2020. But then obviously COVID happened, so that didn't work out. And I talked to my company and they were okay with me going on a sabbatical. So that's what I did. During this 6 months, I obviously wasn't getting paid, but I invested a lot of time into my small business. I polished up my website, all my Etsy listings, and we'll talk about earnings from those later, and whether that was a financially sound decision. But I didn't expect for it to take off. I had like the small hope that my job is the only thing holding me back. As soon as I go full time, my art will magically go viral and I will get like 1 million online sales. Which obviously didn't happen. I did experience a lot of growth and I got time to update a lot of my art. I actually had a lot of motivation to do art and I started a bunch of projects during that time. But yeah, it's back to work now, back to the grind, and that's okay. Number 7, the amount of projects that I started last year and did not finish. I tend to do that a lot, like instead of just sketching something and then calling it quits, I have to do project with capital P. It has to be finished, it has to be perfect, because otherwise why would I start at all? Sometimes it bites me in the butt, sometimes it doesn't, and each time I learn a lot about myself and where I want to go. So my goal is to get rid of fan art completely. And obviously you have to fill the void that fan art left on your table with something else. So some of the projects I started were a series of anarchy pins, which is me expressing my anger at the current state of the world through cute animals. I think this has a lot of potential and I really want to continue it. Maybe not as pins, maybe I'll bring out a sticker pack at some point. On that one I'm kind of flip-flopping, and sometimes I think it's the best idea ever, and sometimes I'm like, this is kind of stupid, why would anybody want this? But I have to abide by the rule. I have to make the things I want to exist in the world, like with the plush dog. Like, if people don't buy the plush dog, I don't care. It's my baby, it's amazing. Other projects I had planned were illustrations of key moments in my D&D campaign, but that ended up too much work, and I sketched a bunch and I was like, nah. I don't really want to draw 6 characters every time. I started a Gary rug, a video about making rugs. There was this brief time where I started a project about riders on cool creatures. I wanted to make this zine about my journey, and I made a bunch of illustrations for it. And obviously the Art of Disease project that is still ongoing, so that is actually the most likely one to be finished. Number 8. I made 8 YouTube videos. You're currently watching the 9th and what is the first video of 2025. While I was taking the time off, I wanted to focus on Catakind art. And that included building your presence on social media. So I resurrected my old YouTube channel that I used to post like tutorials on how to animate and stuff. The video that was watched the most was a vlog I made about going to Dokomi, Germany, which I applied for this year as well. It was a great time, mostly because I got to do it with my family who enjoyed it. Thank you everybody who watches the videos. This is the point where I tell you to like and subscribe. Help out a little guy. I have one more number for you. The total watch hours were 131.8. Number 9. Conventions. I went to in 2024, so on average one every 1.5 months. I went to the small con called Lethbridge Entertainment Expo in southern Alberta, which people were warning me about, but I just got rejected from Calgary Expo. So me and my Calgary homies went to Lethbridge, and in the end I do not regret it at all, even though financially it was a bust, since I had to pay for flights and stuff, because it was a great experience and I got to hang out with all these cool people, made some new friends. We now have a Discord server for art and memes, so definitely a net positive. The best convention I did was Otakuthon in Montreal. I shared a table with my buddy Anita, and people were just buying. Like, I sold out of so many things. With my earnings from that convention, which is my income minus expenses minus production cost, which was around $2,000 Canadian, just like earnings, I was able to finance getting my plushies done. 10 is the amount of times I went to therapy last year. Like, as I mentioned, I was struggling with burnout, there was a death in the family, and just like a bunch of like self-worth issues. So if you ever feel like you're struggling, just like going and voicing your things and realizing the patterns. If you don't have the funds or the insurance, there are sliding scale therapists. I remember when way back when I went to this youth counselor who was only charging $30 an hour if you were under 25, and he helped me a lot. Like, I was finally able to go to sleep without breaking into anxious sweats, and everything I've done since then has been building up on what I did. So yeah, therapy, always, everybody needs it. And if it's really difficult to do in your country, like if it's like a super long process, like start today. Like a year from now, you will be at the same spot, or even worse. But if you start today, then a year from now, you might have a therapist. Like, even if the first one you find sucks, try again. Like, your mind needs healing too. So this is my wall of stuff. It looks pretty okay. Now it needs price tags. Alright, we finished with numbers 1 to 10. Now come the big hitters. Ooh. So, next one, number 16. The amount of books I finished. Me and my friends have a book club that has been going on for a couple of years, where we gather every 2 or 3 weeks and discuss the book that we read. We take turns presenting book ideas to each other, and then do a vote on which one you want to read. And then I also read a little bit on the side, or I read the ones that I'm interested in that did not make the vote. Like, naturally, I made a tier list. My favorite books were The Anomaly, a book by Hervé Letellier, probably my favorite one of last year. A mystery slash thriller slash sci-fi about an airplane that gets lost, then reappears, and then 3 months later appears again in the same spot with the same people. And it's like an awesome thought experiment on how the world would react to an anomaly. Then there's Project Hail Mary that I read for the second time, this time as an audiobook. Can absolutely recommend, a really cool science fiction book by the same guy who wrote The Martian. Then there is Death's End, the third book of the Three Body Problem, another science fiction book. Yeah, just blew me away, had me in existential dread for a long time. Then Babel, a very haunting book with a really cool magic system that is a really good commentary on colonialism. Also great, can recommend. And Views, a book written by a German author about social media algorithms, and very, very topical. And then a bunch of others. All the ones in D tier were hyped up to me, but I just found them so boring I could not finish. I record all the books I've read on an app called Storygraph. If you're interested, leave me a comment, add me. We can be Storygraph buddies, compare notes, compare books. It's kind of like Goodreads, but not bought by Amazon. The next number I got for you is 32. The amount of new products that I released through Candid Art in 2024. Most of them are postcards, the Birds with Hats postcards, like these guys. They were a huge hit. People love a postcard. I made 14 birds total. Then next one was stickers. You can see a bunch of them here. I expanded on my skeleton theme. I made all these Pokemon and video game character stickers, mostly because I was doing a convention called Battle of BC, which was very video game focused. They sold okay, but as I said, I want to be phasing out fan art, so once they're gone, they're gone. I designed one new pin, this little guy, the raccoon. I designed 3 keychains, the reversible dinosaur keychains. Huge thanks to all my Kickstarter backers. This would literally not be possible without you. So they got the bones on the front, the 3D rig on the back, which is, as I said, what I do for work. And they come with a really nice backing card that explains what 3D rigging actually is. So if you're ever curious about how Jurassic World or whatever is made, you should snag one of those. I made a bunch of new prints, most of them based on watercolor paintings that I made during my 6 months off. A meme cat sticker sheet, and probably my favorite thing, a new edition of my art book that has all my skeleton guys in them, in an order that makes a lot more sense now. It's very like aesthetically pleasing. And I added a bunch of behind the scenes of how I design my pins, a bunch of sketches, like original sketches, like why a certain shape language is better for pins and whatever. Added a page about 3D rigging, since I want to lean into this part of what I do. And the last page is about Skelborus. It shows some of the notes that I sent to the manufacturer when they were working on the design. It's essentially like this big love letter to the journey I've been on to create the Candid brand, which seems to be mostly like skeleton critters, but also other things. The next number I got for you is 37. The amount of items sold in my first ever physical location. At the end of last year, I packed all of my merch and walked around downtown Vancouver and talked to a bunch of stores. And then, not joking, literally the last one I walked into, they were like, yeah, we'll buy some, we'll display them, which is the Rock Shop on Granville Street. They sell fully licensed merch of bands and singers, quirky keychains, and just like a lot of alternative stuff that still is compatible with most people, which is like almost exactly my brand. Like, teenage me used to love spending time in these stores, so I'm so happy that they trusted my stuff enough to display it. And yeah, in the course of 5 or 6 weeks, 37 pins and keychains were sold. And actually, friends of mine have started seeing people in the wild, like walking on the street or in a grocery store, wearing one of my pins on their backpack. And I'm like, oh, like, okay, so like that is like the best. Like something that I make that came out of my brain, people like enough to like go to a random store, purchase it without knowing me or anything, and then put it like on their stuff. Is incredible. It's like, thank you. Okay, next one, it's gonna be very similar. Amount of Etsy orders, 57. Since I reopened my shop, which was sometime in March, between December, with most orders happening in December. Most of them for just one item. That was great. Every single one I package, I imagine it going somewhere and people enjoying them, and it's really nice. The next number I got for you is 86. That is the amount of time I spent on airplanes. As I said, I did a bunch of conventions. Most of them were travel cons because I unfortunately did not get into any of the big Vancouver ones, so I had to reach out, and I did a bunch in Alberta, and obviously the big trip to Europe and the trip to Australia. So lots of time spent on planes in airports, but I actually really like traveling, and I am short, so I fit in airplane seats. The next number, 156 hours spent playing D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. In 2021, I started a group at work. We were playing over Discord. So it was me as the DM and 6 players, and we've been playing almost every week for 4 hours since, and that campaign ended last year, so that was a very emotional, epic ending. And then we started a new game with mostly the same players in person, and we've only played like 3 times last year, but each session was about 8 or 9 hours. Since we're also friends, so we like hanging out. I hope you're still there, hope you're still following. If not, talking to myself, that's okay. I do that a lot. 571, amount of sales at conventions. The average sale value was around $20, which is maybe like a pin and a sticker or 4 postcards. So huge thanks to everybody who came and saw me at the convention table and bought my stuff. The next number, a little less fun, 760, rounded up. The amount of Canadian dollars I paid in fees to be able to sell digitally. Some of it was paid to Square, which is like a card reader machine that I use at conventions. Some of it was paid to Etsy, because Etsy collects a percentage on every sale, and the rest was paid to Kickstarter for when I did my keychains. So yeah, we've been talking about numbers a lot and sales, and now let's get to the juicy stuff. Let's get to how much money did I actually make in these 6 months and beyond. So as I said, I did 9 conventions. I made a bunch of Etsy sales. I ran a Kickstarter and I worked freelance. First, let's do expenses, because when you're a small business, you kind of make things out of nothing. You don't just like go and work somewhere. You have to make the product that you sell. When you get into a convention, you have to prepay for the table, which can be hundreds of dollars, without knowing whether you will be able to make the money back. So my expenses throughout the whole year of 2024 were $18,292. That's a lot. Most of it was the plushie pre-order, which I haven't been able to sell yet. Pre-orders, go pre-order, please. I don't want to be stuck with 100 dogs. And the big order at the enamel pin factory that made the keychains, and I also reordered a bunch of the pins that I was running low on. So that was 2 huge orders, which were only in part covered by the money made. Then I also counted all my flights to and from conventions as expenses, obviously hotel stays and all that stuff. And I'm keeping track of like every time I go and I buy like a new printer or like new paper or new like grids. I bought like a wagon to help me transport stuff to and from conventions. All of this is calculated in the expenses. So how much profit did I actually make? First, we have to look at how much income I made, which is $19,203. This includes mostly conventions, like sales at conventions, Etsy, Kickstarter, freelance. I did a few commissions. So in the end, my profit was actually less than $1,000, which is my take-home pay. So of these $1,000, I have to pay rent, I have to pay myself, I have to pay for food, I have to... yeah, definitely not viable. But as I mentioned, I have a real people job that I used to save up so I can do these things. And I am like aggressively reinvesting. Like as I said, I made money at Otakuthon in Montreal, and instead of like saving that money, I immediately spent it on plushies because I knew plushies was gonna be the next thing I wanted to make. So I make things so I can make more things, and I'm fortunate that I have a skill that is very employable, so I can still work in the arts and then do more art on the side. But yeah, so even though the profit is not that high, and I would not be able to go full-time with my small business and support myself, just looking at the numbers is incredible. Like, a 5-figure income, even if spread out over a whole year. Like, a couple years ago when I started conventions, I did not know that was possible. And I can't increase the amount of conventions I go to very much, but I can pick and choose which ones to go to, and I think the most amount of growth is possible with online stores and little things like that. So I will be focusing on that for this year. Still doing conventions. There won't be as many videos as last year because I am focused on doing my actual job, which I actually really enjoy. So like things are good, and I have a really good basis to build up on, and I really enjoy everything I do, and at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for. As for the next video, I might make one about plushie production. If you're curious about the whole process from concept over the iterations to like the final plushie, how much it all costs, like a breakdown, the certification that you have to do, how I designed the packaging. I would love to make a video when the 100 dogs arrive, so drop me a comment if you're curious. These videos take a lot of time, a lot of effort, so even if you're the only person watching, let me know, please. And thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed my number breakdown. At me if you want to fight me over where I sorted some of my books. I will defend my opinions in a respectful way, of course. And let me know if any of this sparked your interest. I love talking about this stuff. If I know you, I'll add you on Discord and we can talk about production and conventions. Because like that is the best thing, like the community, like, and this is something I kept repeating, right? Like I got inspired by Tuna, and then I found these people in Calgary, and then I saw people like wearing my pins on their backpacks. Like the art is nice, but the people is what like makes it magical. So, and I might attach a time lapse of me finishing this. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.